Order, shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers in grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Resilient Warrior Nation podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morgan. I'm absolutely honored and humbled to have my next guest on today. Before I get to my guest, though, I just want to tell you guys about the shirt that I'm wearing. This is not a proclamation. This is the company of a man named Eddie Penny. He's a former Navy SEAL, Team 6 guy. I became familiar with Eddie approximately 2 years ago when I sat down and watched an episode of the Sean Ryan podcast on which Eddie was a guest. And during the episode, Eddie was recounting the story of the Extortion 17 incident, which a Chinook was shot down by insurgents in Afghanistan, killing all 38 aboard, including 17 SEALs. It was their largest loss of life in one day ever. As Eddie told the story of losing his best friend, Jason Workman, in that incident, and then escorting Jason's body back to his hometown, he became visibly emotional and upset. I now know that watching this absolute warrior do that gave me permission to do so, because I simultaneously began thinking about a call that I had. I'm a 30-year medically retired police officer involving a 2-year-old found floating in a pool, beautiful little girl named Dana Sikorsky. And as I thought of that call with Dana, I literally just began crying like a baby. It was at that point, this is about a year and a half after retirement, that I realized that the things that I've been going through was some sort of PTSD. I was always under the mistaken impression that PTSD was only caused by seeing your brother or sister next to you get killed. Mine, I now know, was being inside the most devastatingly intimate moments of other people's lives over and over and over and over for 30 years. At that point, I realized what I had, what I've been suffering from, knew that I needed help, knew that I did not want to live with this for the rest of my life. I was not going to be this bitter guy that hated everything and everyone. So I began searching for modalities in which to heal. Mine ended up being ayahuasca, a psychedelic, literally changed my life on March 1st of 2024. And as the universe and I had this conversation, I know it sounds weird if you never journey with psychedelics, but the universe and I were speaking, and the universe told me that I was healed. My life's pursuit was to now go forth and help all the first responders and vets heal theirs. And one way I'm doing that is by creating this podcast. And I want to do for others what Sean Ryan and Eddie Penny did for me. In that vein, I have my next guest, Zach. And before I introduce Zach, I just wanted to kind of tell about how a collaboration came about. Zach had started following me about a week and a half ago on Instagram. And as I usually do, I go check everyone's profiles to see if there's some sort of collaboration, kind of see if I could find out about them just by, glancing at the profile. And I had seen that Zach was a quadriplegic, and I'd seen him exercising, I had seen him boxing, and I just kind of started reading through his reels and became extremely inspired. Furthermore, I saw that my buddy Taylor Kavanaugh followed Zach, so I reached out to Taylor and asked him if he was Zach's coach. He said, yeah, Zach's a great guy. I said, do you think Zach would be interested in coming on my podcast? I think he's a huge inspiration, and it would do wonders for people to see Zach and how he lives his life. He said, absolutely. At that point, I reached out to Zach. We got on the phone, spoke for a while, just synergistic energies. It was beautiful. I love the way he leads his life. He was hit with tragic circumstances, but it did not let it stop him, far from it. So let me introduce Zach. At just 15 years old, Zach Collie's life changed forever when a diving accident left him paralyzed from the neck down. In that moment, it felt like everything was over before it even began. Zach was overwhelmed with hopelessness and unable to imagine a future beyond his circumstances. But what felt impossible for him wasn't impossible for God. Through unimaginable hardship, God gave Zach's life a renewed purpose. Zach's suffering became the foundation for growth, resilience, and faith. Today, Zach is proud of the man he's become, an associate marriage and family therapist, a husband, a father, and an advocate for perseverance. Zach's relationship with God is stronger than it's ever been, and he now lives to share the hope he once thought was lost. Zach's story is a testament to the truth that no matter what you face, God is still good. Even if your circumstances don't change, he believes the journey he's walked through can inspire and uplift others, and Zach's passionate about sharing that message with others. Brother, beautiful message. Welcome to the podcast. I'm honored and humbled to have you on.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this.
As have I. As have I. Like I said, I went through your profile on Instagram and I was kind of blown away at how you live your life and the fact that you did not let that accident stop you. And, it's a testament to your courage. It is an example for others to follow. Frankly, after seeing what you've been through, for anyone to have an excuse for not getting up their ass and putting one foot in front of the other, yeah, there is no excuse. You know what I mean? You choose the way you want to live your life, no matter what hand you've been dealt. So, again, kudos to you, brother. So please let the audience kind of know about you. Tell us where you grew up, how you grew up. What was your life like as a youngster?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Southern California, Orange County. I am the oldest of four siblings. My parents had me when they were pretty young, so I was definitely, I was their first child. They were young. They weren't 100% sure on what they were doing raising a baby, and it was just a new experience for them. And I happened to be a very difficult child, so I had that kind of inner defiance growing up. If someone told me to do something or that I couldn't do something, I would literally do the opposite or try to prove them wrong. I definitely was more work than all my three younger siblings put together. And I was a very active person growing up. I rode dirt bikes, I surfed, I skateboarded. I was an athlete. So I grew up going to the beach all the time, body surfing, boogie boarding, surfing, outside a lot. And so I was not an academic student. Didn't really put a lot of effort into school. I kind of had that mentality of, C's get degrees. As long as I passed my classes, it was good enough for me. It's safe
Yep.
to say that college was not part of my future plan for my life. I was a go with the flow kind of guy. Took it one day at a time, didn't think much about my future. I always hated the question in school, what do you want your life to look like in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now? In my mind, I was like, I don't think that far ahead. I don't even know what's going to happen a year from now. So I didn't like those questions growing up. But yeah, just an average teenager. I hung out with friends. I liked to sleep over and just hang out and do fun things. And so when I was a freshman in high school, 15 years old, Monday, May 31st, happened to be Memorial Day, 2010. And back then, I didn't understand the point of that holiday. To me, it was just a day off from school. And so
Right.
I want to take a moment just to really thank everyone who has paid that ultimate sacrifice to protect this country. It's a day that should be honored and remembered for the people that have lost their lives, the family members that have lost loved ones. We were talking about this before we started recording. For me, I've really latched on to um, military stories and how inspirational they are for me. And looking back now, as a 15-year-old, when I was younger, it was just, I was like, cool, I got the day off from school, so let's go have some
Yeah.
fun. But ultimately, we would not have the freedom we have today without the people that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. So thank you to everyone that's watching this that has done that. I'm very grateful for that. So going
I
back to
echo
that
those
day,
sentiments.
yeah, going back to that day, I woke up Monday morning, no school, May 31st, 2010. I got a call from one of my friends asking me if I wanted to go to the beach that day with him. And so I asked my parents, and they told me no because they already had plans to go to this pool party with some other friends. And going to the beach on a holiday is always more work because it's crowded.
Oh,
Parking is
yeah.
just difficult, and so they didn't want to go through all that for me. So like I was saying earlier, I was a very persistent kid. If I didn't get my way or if I was told no, I would usually find a way to get it. And so I talked to one of my friends and he convinced his mom to drop us off at the beach. So all I had to do was talk my parents into dropping me off at his house and his parents would do the rest of the work. So they agreed to
Perfect.
that. Yeah, they agreed to
Well
that
done.
and I got my way, so I was happy. And I get in the car. My dad drives me over there, and I remember on the car ride over, he had this conversation with me about just being careful. Injuries, accidents happen. He specifically referenced, diving and neck injuries. And as a 15-year-old, you have this invincible mindset. You don't think, these things are going to happen to you. You hear about things happening to other people or going wrong, but you never think it's going to happen to you.
Yeah,
My
of course.
mindset was, yeah, I hear you, Dad, but I'm not going to be a part of that percentage. And so we get to my friend's house,
Let me
and
just interrupt
I
you 1
already,
second. In
yeah,
retrospect, that is incredible that your father had that talk with you prior to you, going and going to the beach. It really is. Not that you would ever know in any way, shape, or form what was about to occur, but if that was a movie, they would call that foreshadowing.
absolutely. And it's crazy now, 15 years later, looking back and remembering that conversation with my dad.
I can
And
imagine.
so, he's telling me that it's going in one ear, out the other. My
Of
mind
course.
is looking forward to hanging out at the beach with my friends, meeting up with some cute chicks, having a good time. That
Yep,
was
of
my
course.
focus, which probably the majority of 15-year old guys, very just kind of self-centered, only caring about myself and things that benefit me. So I hop out of the car. I tell my dad I love him. Everything that he told me kind of went in one ear, out the other. And that was the last time he ever saw me walking. So I get in my friend's parents' car. His mom drops us off at the beach. It was Newport Beach, 42nd Street. I grew up going to the beach every summer, my entire life pretty much, specifically Newport Beach and Huntington Beach, down here in Southern California. And we get to the beach and we meet up with our group of friends. We find a spot on the sand. We put our towels down and put on our sunblock and just hit the water. And I
Yep.
remember being in the water that day. It was really cold, and that'll come into play later. But we just hung out in the water, did some body surfing, had lunch, went back in. And when you're having a good time, time goes by really fast.
Oh,
So the
yeah.
next thing we know, we're getting a call from my parents. We're getting a call from my friend's mom. She was letting us know that she was on her way to come get us. So we
Okay.
figured we had about maybe 30, 40 minutes by the time she got here if there was some traffic. So we all decided we wanted to go in the water one last time just to kill some time. And I stood up right next to my buddy from the sand. We looked at each other and started running towards the water. And as I'm running towards the water, I remember it being cold. So in my mind, I was just going to dive into a wave and submerge myself, get used to the cold water as quick as possible, kind of rip off the band-aid, so to
Yep.
speak. As I'm running towards the water, my feet hit the sand. As it gets colder, my feet hit the water. I get like a chill that goes up the back of my spine, and I see a wave in front of me, and I figured, okay, this is just going to be the wave I'm going to dive into. Something I've done hundreds, if not thousands of times growing up, going to the beach. This wasn't anything out of the ordinary. This wasn't anything new that I was doing. And I see this wave, and I pick this is the wave I'm just going to dive into and submerge myself. I tuck my head down, I put my arms out, boom, dive in the wave. All of a sudden, I get this weird feeling over my body, like something had shifted, but I didn't know what it was. There was no pain. There wasn't any indicator right away that something had happened, but in my heart or in my spirit, something changed.
Right.
So this is all probably in a millisecond thought. And I go to get up and nothing's working in my body. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I try to get up, nothing's working. And I don't know how much time goes by. My mind goes back to that conversation I had with my dad in his car earlier that day. Neck injury, spinal cord injury, paralyzed. Those words go through my head. And I connect the dots. And I'm like, holy shit. I think I just broke my neck. This is what it means. This must be what it means to be paralyzed because I can't get up out of the water. I'm fully
Right.
conscious. I'm just laying face down in the ocean water floating. Nothing I can do. I can't turn my head out of the water to take a breath. And I connect the dots and I'm like, oh my gosh, this just happened to me. And in my mind right away, the first thought I have is my friends are going to look at my body, see me floating face down. And because the type of kid I was, being a prankster, a jokester, always messing around, they're going to look at my body and just think I'm joking. And by the time they realize something serious had happened, I'm going to have inhaled water and drowned.
Yeah, of
So
course.
all these thoughts are going through my head. And because of that, I pretty much accept I'm dying today at 15 years old. And after that, I just think about my life. Like 15 years old, I haven't even started my life yet. There's so many things that I want to do that I haven't even got to start. I'm wishing I would have told my parents I love them more. I wish I was, a better child for them. I wish I was a better sibling to my younger siblings because I was that typical older brother that, picked on them. I was always causing problems. I played the role of the older brother very well. How
Yep.
you envision it is how it was. I was an older physical brother and I didn't have the best relationships with my siblings or with my parents. So immediately I'm just thinking about all these things that, I wish I would have done differently. I don't get to tell my parents goodbye. Like this is it. And so I do the only thing I can do. I hold my breath. And my mindset was I'm going to hold my breath as long as I can until my body says no and I inhale water and drown. And as I'm holding my breath, I grew up, as I was holding my breath, I said a prayer. I grew up going to church every Sunday. That was something we did as a family. But church and God was not a priority in my life. I went because I had to go. I didn't really have a choice. But I knew about God and but didn't really prioritize him very much. And it's
Right.
really funny in that moment when I had I had no control over anything and I'm in this life or death situation. I went to him because there wasn't much I could do. And I said a prayer just asking God to save my life that there's no way that this is how my life is going to end. This can't be my story. And part of me felt like this was a bad dream. I'm like, all right, wake up. This isn't funny anymore. And then the other part of me knew that like this was my actual reality. So I said a prayer asking God, if you're real, if you're there, if you love me, please save my life. I'll go to church every Sunday the rest of my life
Yeah. The
if
bargaining
you save me.
starts.
Yes,
Yep.
I was bargaining with him. I told him on that specific line, I will go to church every Sunday the rest of my life if you save me today. I swear. And so after that prayer, I don't know how much longer or how much more time went by. And then I got this weird feeling on my back. It felt like someone had just came up and lightly poked me. And it happened to be my buddy that dove or jumped in the wave next to me. He popped back up, looked over, saw my body floating face down in the water, and ran over and smacked me on my back. And when he did that, there was no physical reaction, no flinch, um, nothing from my body. It just looked like this lifeless body floating face down in the water. And that was kind of weird for him that there wasn't any type of physical reaction or movement
Action.
after slapping me. And
Right.
then my body starts to float back out with the tide. And I don't know if it was just this light that went on in his head, or maybe God heard my prayer and spoke through my friend. But as soon as my body started floating out the tide, he knew something had happened. He goes over to my body and flips me over so my face is out of the water. And I remember taking a big breath of air and then just staring straight up into the sun. And then the next thing I know, boom, I get hit with a wave over my face. Salt water
Yeah.
goes up my nose and my eyes. I'm like just trying to breathe. And the next thing I know, I feel I'm being dragged out of the water by my arms. And my friend had grabbed me by my arms and starts pulling me out of the water. And as I'm getting hit in the face with these waves, and he pulls me up out of the water onto the sand. And I remember out of the corner of my eye, I could see my arms because they were being pulled above my head. And so I could see my arms being held by him, and he lets go of them and they drop down to the sand on the ground. And it was a weird feeling because it was as if these weren't my arms because I had no control over them and they
Yep.
felt so heavy, but I could physically see them attached to my body. And after that, my friend comes around and he's standing above me, looking down over me, and just this weird look over his face. And I just tried to say, I can't move. I can't move. I think I'm paralyzed. But nothing was coming out of my mouth. I think my body was just in shock. I don't know. It was weird. There was no voice coming out. And when I had
So,
dove and hit my
are you
head,
like physically able to? I know you can at this point,
yeah,
but like someone in similar circumstances, are they not able to speak at this point, or was it just that you think you're in shock and that's what was precluding you from speaking?
that's a good question. I'm not sure. I think in the moment it was just the shock of everything because I could talk, but
Right.
nothing was actually coming out.
Yeah.
And so I just kept repeating myself, like, I can't move. I can't move. Like, I don't know if I was doing that so he would read my lips. But what happened was when I had hit my head, I bit my tongue and there was blood coming out of my mouth. So he saw that and it was like, okay, something serious has happened. He
Yeah.
ran and got the lifeguard. Lifeguard came back and I just kept saying the same thing. Like, I can't move anything right now. And I think I'm paralyzed. So the lifeguard leaves, calls 911. And I'll never forget this moment of laying in the sand, just staring straight up at the sun, unable to move anything below my neck. And I hear the sirens in the background and they're getting closer, they're getting louder. But I knew that they were coming for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about all the times, I hear, an ambulance go by or a fire truck go by and it gets loud and then it disappears and it goes
Yeah.
to whoever person, it's going for. But it was coming for me. And it was a weird moment. And so the paramedics get there, they come down to the sand, they instantly put my neck in a neck brace. They lift me onto a stretcher, carry me off the sand, load me into the ambulance, and off I go to the hospital. My friend is left at the beach. They did not let him go with me because he's not a family member. We were 14, 15 years old, and he just saw his best friend get hauled off into an ambulance, having no idea what happened. All he knows is that his friend couldn't move.
Yeah.
I wake up in the hospital a few days later after they had done surgery. I don't really remember anything in between those few days. I wake up to this tube down my throat. And right away, my immediate reaction is I'm trying to push it out with my tongue. And a nurse comes in, sees that I'm awake, goes and gets a doctor. Doctor comes in, he sees me still struggling, and he says that tube down your throat is what's helping you breathe right now. I can take it out, and if you can't breathe on your own, I'm gonna have to put it back in while you're awake, and it's gonna be very uncomfortable. So blink once for yes, twice for no. I blinked yes. Take this thing out. And I remember him just pulling this tube out of my mouth, and it's like not stopping. I was like, how freaking far does this go down there?
Yeah.
And I'm
I can
like
imagine.
gagging, and I'm just like, get this out. So thankfully, tube comes out. I'm able to breathe on my own, but I'm not getting quite enough oxygen to my brain. So they put on, that little tube that goes under your
Yeah.
nose with the little
Nasal cannula.
oxygen. And
Yep.
yeah. So just to help get some more oxygen to my brain. And after that, he goes and gets my parents. And I remember my parents coming in, and I just remember feeling so happy that I was alive and I'm getting to see them again. At that moment, nothing else mattered. I didn't
Yep.
care about what had happened. I didn't know really the severity of what had happened yet. But in that moment, all I could feel was just hope and happiness that I was alive and that I was getting to see my parents.
Right.
So after we had like a quick little kind of reunion, I guess, um, doctor came back in and kind of explained what had happened. And they told me that I had shattered my C4 vertebrae in my neck and that I had spinal cord damage. I was diagnosed as a quadriplegic, which meant I had paralysis from my neck down. So at that time, I had nothing. I had no movement and no feeling below my neck. You could touch me on my body. It felt like my entire body fell asleep. The best way I can describe it is like when your foot falls asleep, you get that numbness and that tingling,
Yeah.
kind of like all those like it feels like all these ants are on you.
Yeah.
So taking that out, I didn't feel the ant feeling everywhere, but it was that numbness all over my body. Another way I describe it is like if your body was coated in a thick layer of mud. That's how like my feeling was. and couldn't move anything below my neck, couldn't scratch an itch on my face, couldn't feed myself, nothing. Doctors told me that this was a very serious injury. I would be dealing with this for the rest of my life, and I had a 1% chance of ever walking again. Now,
What a way to
I'm
wake
being
up.
told that as 15 years old, and in my mind, I'm still not understanding the severity because I still have this stubborn mindset of, okay, yeah, this happened to me, but this isn't, I'm not going to still be a part of this percentage. I'm going to be walking out of this hospital. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that I thought if you broke your neck, you die. I didn't know you can live with a spinal cord injury. I didn't understand the severity and seriousness of an injury like this. So in my mind, I was like, okay, this is serious, but I'm going to get through it. And like that was my just mentality off the bat. And it was hard. And, I think people, they look at me and I have a physical disability, so they see it. But there's so much more that goes into a spinal cord injury than just losing your mobility. Like my body got paralyzed. I lost function of my bowel and bladder. I could no longer go to the bathroom on my own. And my bladder would just fill up with pee. And they had to do this thing called calving, which I learned and had to go through. And it was one of the most horrible things I personally have had to go through. And that's a part of also a spinal cord injury. I couldn't go to the bathroom.
Can you
I
talk
had to
about?
have
You want
help.
to talk about that, caffeine? Do you
Yeah,
want to touch on it,
yeah.
just so people have an idea what you're speaking about?
Absolutely. So
Please.
I'll share what I had to go through, and you can share your knowledge on that. So basically, with a spinal cord injury, specifically my injury, my bladder is paralyzed. At that time, it was, and so any liquid I drank would just go into my bladder, and my bladder would not release. So they had to calf me, which is they stick this sterilized tube. Um, Down my penis through my urethra into my bladder. And
Yep.
once it goes in my bladder, it drains out. And so as a guy, that area stuff, it's supposed to only go out. You're not supposed to put stuff
Yeah.
in it. So
No.
at the time, even though I didn't have feeling, I still felt the pressure of what that is. And you get calved every 4 hours, no matter what.
Wow.
And it was for me, if I ever that was my torture.
Yeah, I can
Like
imagine.
as a guy and having that done to you every 4 hours, I dreaded it every moment, knowing that this was coming in 4 hours. I didn't want to drink any liquid because I didn't want to have to go through that. But it was my new reality. So
Yeah.
that was something I had to now deal with every day, every 4 hours.
Yeah. New
And
realities, I'm sure, one after the other are starting to pop up for
yeah,
you now. Yeah, can't even
and
imagine.
so yeah, I'm basically just told, Zach, you're quadriplegic. And this is going to be something you are going to be dealing with the rest of your life, and you are never going to walk again. So the doctor leaves, and my dad comes back in and has this conversation with me that I'll never forget. It was the first time in my life at 15 years old I saw my dad crying, tears coming out of his eyes, like truly crying. And
Yeah.
it was really weird for me because I had just never seen my dad in such a vulnerable state. It felt uncomfortable. It felt awkward. And he
Of
asked
course.
me like straight up, like, Zach, why aren't you like crying? You're not responding in a negative way right now. And my response back to him, I don't know where this came from, why I said that, but I told him, Dad, I can't afford to think that way. Those were my words back to him. And it was
Yeah.
weird because in that moment, it was almost like I was comforting him, letting
Yeah.
him know like everything's going to be okay, even though I'm the one that is paralyzed. And so from that moment on, that conversation, I think, kind of just shifted everything. And, we had a conversation and I asked him to leave. I just wanted some moments by myself just to think. And I remember I had this internal conversation with myself about what my options were moving forward. I've always been the type of person that has a very um, solution focused mindset. I don't like
Hmm.
focusing on problems. I want to figure it out. So that was my conversation I had with myself of Zach, okay, what are my options moving forward? What am I going to do? How do I overcome this? And I came to two conclusions. I could either be angry, I could feel sorry for myself, and I can give up. And honestly, I feel like if I chose that path, a lot of people would have understood because how do you kind of move forward from something that is so big and life changing like this? And
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
really hard because my whole identity that I built up until those 15 years was being an independent person. That was the hardest thing for me, was going from being such an independent person to losing it all and now being completely dependent on others for my quality of life and care. My parents would always joke with me that I would have had my bags packed by the front door of my by the front door the day of my 18th birthday, ready to move out and just live my life. I
Uh-huh.
was the most independent one. I did everything on my own. I didn't like asking for help. If there was something I didn't know how to do, I would ask for help once. I would see how it was done, and I wouldn't need help with that again. And that loss of independence was harder for me than becoming paralyzed. And I realized, okay, how do I move forward? I can give up, I can quit, I can focus on what I lost, I can focus on the things I can't do anymore, or I can figure it out. I can move forward, even though I don't have the answers right now, or I don't know what my future is going to look like. I can still try. I can
Yeah.
get better, or I can get better. And instantly, I knew what I was gonna do. I was gonna move forward. I was gonna figure it out, and I was not gonna let my circumstances dictate my future.
It's an incredible mindset, especially for a 15-year-old kid. You know what I mean? A
Yeah,
lot of other people would have come up with problems for every solution. You're doing the opposite.
yeah,
You
and
know, it's
and,
amazing.
and it's interesting because for me, that mindset, that way of thinking, was the only part that made sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for me to focus on what I lost, even though I lost so much, and it was easier to focus on that because of how big it was. And I still struggle with all of this hopelessness, all of this uncertainty. It it felt too big to overcome.
Right.
But there was still this hope in me that believed like this isn't it for me. There's a purpose to this. There's something bigger out there. And the only way to get there is to move forward and to take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
And so after ICU, I was transferred to a rehab center where I basically learned to navigate my new life in a wheelchair, doing physical therapy every day, doing occupational therapy every day, learning how to feed myself. Over time, I slowly got function back. You know, as you can see me talking right now, I can move my arms. I still have zero function in my wrists and fingers. So I talk with them. I do things. I can feed myself. I can type a key on a keyboard. I can use an iPhone. It's all just me adapting to figuring it out with no hand function.
Okay.
Um,
So like those fine motor skills are not there.
yeah, those fine motor
Okay.
skills, like I can't pop a pimple on my face. I need help doing my hair. I can feed
Right.
myself now. So over these past 15 years, I kind of just have figured things out.
Yep.
But back in rehab, you're basically learning how to navigate a life now in a paralyzed body. And I was there for 3 months, just learning all these things. And basically after that, insurance didn't pay for it anymore, or insurance stopped paying. So I went back home, and that was it. It was up to me to figure out the rest of my life and navigate all this medical supply stuff, insurance stuff. It was such a whirlwind, and
Oh, I can imagine.
everything's happening so fast. So
Now, you have
my
someone guiding you guys through the whole process, medical wise, like social workers or anything like that? Because I can't even imagine dealing with insurance companies in this fast process that you guys are navigating.
Yeah, that was something my mom really took care of
Okay.
for me at 15 years old. That was not anything that, I was in the loop about. And just while
Good.
I'm on the topic of that, of my mom, man, my mom is my rock. I would not be where I am today without my mom stepping up to the plate. And like I said earlier, I'm the oldest. I have three younger siblings that still need to be taken care of. And now my mom is also dealing with a son who's now a quadriplegic. And at the time, I'm in high school. I have another brother who's in middle school, and I have two younger siblings in elementary school. So
Wow.
life did not stop when I broke my
Yeah.
neck. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter. And I realized, if I wanted to move forward, I couldn't focus on how I felt. I had to ignore my feelings because my feelings were all negative and they were bringing me down. If I wanted to move forward, I had to do the things that I didn't want to do that were uncomfortable. And so I go back to school. I go back to high school. My last time my friends saw me, I was walking, and I go back. I am homeschooled my sophomore year. I go back my junior and senior year for my elective classes, just so I could see my friends, and then I would go back home to my core classes. But high school was really hard going back. When you're in high school, you're finding yourself. You don't really know who you are.
Oh
You're
yeah, that
exploring, you're
age.
experimenting, you're having fun. And I go back in a wheelchair and I just struggle with immense amount of just insecurity. All these thoughts of, I lost friends. This injury showed me who my real friends were.
Yeah,
Friends that I expected to stick around that didn't. And I had friends that I expected to disappear that rose to the occasion and stuck around. And high school was really tough. It wasn't the best experience. I had an amazing high school that supported me. But as far as my social life decreased dramatically, I didn't get invited to a lot of things. I didn't go to a lot of parties. I would see my friends posting videos on their Snapchat and Instagram Friday and Saturday night at parties having fun. I never once got invited.
yeah,
Or I would have plans with a friend and they would bail out last minute. And then later on that night, I'd see their story of them, having fun. I didn't go to any school dances. I didn't go to prom. High school was just in part of that was just because of my insecurity and just these negative thoughts I had of, what girl would want to go to a dance with a guy that can't even dance? What
right.
girl's going to want to date a guy in a wheelchair that can't even, open a door for them or physically protect them? Like I'm having all these thoughts of like what what it is to be a man, and I can't do any of these things, so I'm
Yeah,
not a man. Um, so I graduate high school, and my senior year, my senior year comes around and my mom has a conversation of like, Zach, what are your plans after high school? Prior to my injury, I already was like, I'm not going to college. I don't care about academics. I was a very physical person. I was an athlete. I wrestled my freshman year of high school, and I figured I'd probably just go to work with my dad. My dad owned his own painting business, and I would just start doing that and just figure life out once I got to that point.
yep,
But I realized if I wanted to be successful, I had to start using my brain because all of my physical abilities were taken away from me. So
right.
any plans or thoughts I had about my future were now no longer a possibility. And my senior year of high school, I applied and got a wheelchair scholarship that was given to injured athletes. Because I wrestled my freshman year, that qualified me. I was
Nice.
approved, so I had the funds to go to college. And I applied to the closest 4-year university and I got accepted, which was amazing. I
Are you
graduated
becoming a
with
better
all my
student
friends.
now? Junior, senior years, are you getting more serious about your studies and everything?
Not in high school.
Not in high
Still
school.
in high
Okay.
school. I'll admit I half-assed my way through high school. I did
Yep.
minimal effort. Um, but one of the cool things was when I graduated, the school gave me an option after my injury. They said, you can take a year off, and that's okay. We're going to pass you for your freshman year, and you can take a year off. In my mind, I said no because I wanted to graduate with all my friends. I didn't want to get held back and all my friends go on without me. That I
Right.
was going to put in the work to do what I needed to do to stay caught up. So fast
Good for
forward my
you.
senior year, graduation comes around. I make it. I pass everything. I'm on track to graduate, and I had this amazing opportunity to have two of my physical therapists drive to my graduation with a special walker to help me stand and take steps and walk to receive my diploma.
Really? Nice.
Yes. So, but what the difficult thing was I was terrified of being the center of attention and doing something in front of a crowd of people.
Yeah.
But I think this was like my first taste or experience of what it was like to persevere and start building this inner resilience and doing things that scared me, but that would help me grow.
Yep.
And my immediate reaction when they offered me that was like, hell no. I don't want to do that. I want to just roll up there, get my diploma, and just move on with my life.
Yeah.
But my mom kind of talked me out of that, and she was like, Zach, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You only graduate from high school once. If you don't do this, you are going to regret it. And when she said that, I everything in me
You
was
got me,
like,
Ma.
you are right. You're right, mom. But I
Yep.
still that fear of doing this thing outside my comfort zone and focusing on everything that could go wrong was overpowering everything.
Of
But in my
course.
heart, I knew if you don't do this, which you can choose not to do,
Yep.
if you don't do it, you will regret it. So I put it off for as long as I could until the school was like, hey, like we need an answer. And
Yeah.
so I decided to do it. I took this risk to step outside of my comfort zone, do something that absolutely terrified me. And my physical therapist came. I go to it's the day of my graduation. I get there and they're like, all right, Zach, we're calling your name first. You're going to be the first one to go. So that was a surprise. And um, my therapist, they stood me up. They locked me into this walker. One person was in front guiding it. Another person was behind me, grabbing my feet and helping me take steps. I walked to get my diploma. Every single person in this stadium is standing up, cheering, screaming. It was one of the best moments of my life that I'll never forget. One of my
That's
most proudest
awesome.
accomplishments. And it made me realize, you know what? That's how we grow. We have to go through
Yep.
uncomfortable times. Um, Comfort is the enemy of growth. And so
Exactly.
after that moment, I slowly started to embrace doing things that scared me, that were uncomfortable. I started to have that mindset of I want to do things outside of my comfort zone because that is going to propel me and make me a stronger person. So after I graduate, I go to college. I got accepted to Cal State University Fullerton, and I was the first person in my family to go to college.
Nice.
Another amazing accomplishment, a door that opened for me in my life that would have never happened if I didn't break my neck.
Yep.
And kind of going back to your question of thriving more in school after my injury, it was in college where I really thrived in my academics, where I realized
Nice.
how little I had applied myself in high school. And when I just made an effort in college, I got the best grades I ever did in college. And I loved it. It was the first time in my life where I really looked forward to going to school. And I go to college,
Good.
I'm undeclared for a while because I never planned on this. So I didn't know what I wanted to major in. And with my injury, I didn't want to get a degree in something that I wasn't going to use
Yeah.
after I graduated. So that was a challenge in itself, trying to find a degree that would benefit me and that I would I would I would use after
Utilize.
I
Yep.
graduated. Right. So there was a lot of kind of trial and error with different majors. One thing that I always was interested in was criminology stuff. So I kind of dipped my toe into what was it? It was what was that major? I can't remember off the top of my
Forensics.
head right now. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to
All
me.
right.
But I tried like business. I tried psychology, and I ended up landing on this degree called human services. And it's kind of like it's a helping profession where you can go into nonprofit, you go into teaching, you can go into counseling. It's a umbrella of stuff that you do to help other people. And
Okay.
I knew that whatever I did later in life, it had to involve helping others because I had seen the people that rose up to help me, that supported me, that donated so I could go to physical therapy. I fundraised the first year of my injury to raise funds for physical therapy. We had to remodel our house with ramps. We had to
Yep.
widen doorways. We had to remodel our bathroom for a roll-in shower because I could no longer um, get into a tub.
Yeah.
So I saw all these people that, people I knew, people I didn't know support me. And it changed my mindset of I want to serve other people and I want to have a purpose bigger than myself.
Yep.
So
Very powerful.
I ended up pursuing human services and I graduated, but I still felt like something was off. Like there was still something more for me to do. And my final year of my bachelor's, I took this summer class called Character and Conflict, and it completely changed my life. It was run by a part-time professor and also part-time therapist. And it was a very uncomfortable class where you talked about difficult topics every week and you had to open yourself up. You had to be vulnerable. You had to talk about hard things. And I thrived in that class. It was the first time I think I was pissed off because there was one week where they canceled it. And I was mad because I was looking forward to this class. I loved it. I genuinely looked forward to it. And it was summer class because it was a lot shorter.
Right.
But I had that light bulb moment for me. Like, you know what? I had all my physical abilities taken away, but I still have my brain. I still have my voice. I can listen to people and I can talk. So I had a light bulb moment of maybe what if I become like a therapist? But then my mind was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can listen to people talking about all these other life problems when my problems are so much bigger. I'm freaking paralyzed. I can't wipe my own ass. These people are here, complaining because they have anxiety and depression, or they just got fired from a job, or they're just, they're having trouble getting out of bed. And in my mind, like, I'm like, you can still feed yourself. You can dress
Yeah.
yourself. You can bathe yourself. You can tie your shoes. Like, what do you have to complain? You know, Obviously, like, you can't have that mindset as a therapist. You have to push that
Yeah.
stuff out. So,
You pussy! Are you kidding me with that
yeah, right. Like, you're
attitude?
complaining. Live 24 hours in my seat, and then let me see how much you're going to be complaining about your problems.
Yep.
Um, but
Perspective.
then, yeah, perspective. It's everything. So I graduate and I look up, master's in counseling programs in Southern California, and Cal State Fullerton has a master's in counseling program. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I decided to apply. And I figured, I'm going to take this leap of faith, and if it works out, if the door opens, I'm going through it. If the door closes on me, it means it's not meant to be, and there's something better out there for me, and I just haven't figured it out yet. So
Yep.
I apply, throw all my eggs in one basket again. I apply. This program is known all over the US. They're known for their master's in counseling program. So they get like 400 applications every year or whenever they get new students, and only accept about 65 out of the 400.
Okay.
So again, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to get accepted, but something is calling me towards this. And so I apply and I get in. And
Nice.
so this is another major accomplishment in my life, of something that would have not happened if I didn't break my neck.
Yep.
So I get accepted. I go in and I decide this is what I'm going to do. This is my career. This is my calling. It's something that I can do independently. It's something that I can get paid enough to support myself and my family, because that's another big thing that was always on my mind. Living in Southern California, Orange County, it's not cheap. It's very
Yeah.
expensive, and I don't want to live with my parents my entire life. I want to move out. I want to live on my own. I want to be independent. Um, so that was always on my mind, and I had to figure out how to do that. And so I
Yep.
was like, you know what, therapists, they make good money. That box is checked. I can do it independently. That box is checked. And I can help other people. I can make a difference in other people's lives. I can inspire them. I can give them hope. I can share my testimony. Boom, another box checked.
Beautiful.
Everything is just aligning and feeling like everything I've gone through in life has led me to this point.
Yep.
And so I graduate in 20, 2022 with my master's degree in counseling with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. Again, something that would have never happened. Never in a million years could I have imagined that Zach would go to college, get a college degree, not only do that, but go even higher and get a master's degree in counseling. I blew everyone away. My parents would have never guessed this for me. And
Yeah.
so I get my degree and I start applying for jobs. Early 2023, I'm applying for jobs, just trying to start getting my hours. My goal is to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. In order to do that, you have to get 3,000 hours of direct client contact. So that's 3,000 hours of therapy. And so you got to get hired and start working somewhere. So I started looking.
Yep.
I found this amazing place that I got hired at called Inspired Resolutions Counseling. It's a private practice in Yorba Linda, right where I live.
Nice.
I could roll there in my wheelchair right now. That's how close it
Oh,
is to me.
sweet.
And I've been working there for about 3 years now. And it has been one of the best experiences I have ever had. My boss is amazing. He is a very intense person, but he knows what he's doing, and he
Yep.
pushes me to be a better therapist. And I've always needed that in my. I've always been the type of person I need that little nudge, and I will rise to the occasion. But
Yeah.
if it's just on me, I'll slack. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
it's me.
Yep.
I know that, but that's why I'll purposely put myself in positions and situations that force me to rise to the occasion because I need that.
Yeah.
And it's just been an
Many of
amazing
us do.
life. I I've been paralyzed for 15 years. So the first 15 years of my life, I was able-bodied. These last 15 years, I've been paralyzed, and so it's just been an amazing journey looking back to see all the things I've accomplished that I was so hopeless about.
Yeah.
And I got married. My wife and I are
Hey,
going to be celebrating our 2-year wedding anniversary in October of this year. I live.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I live on my own in an apartment with my wife. I drive independently with hand controls. I'm completely independent except for just the daily care that I need help with. So a
Right.
lot of people see me dressed now. Like right now, I'm good to go the rest of the day. But there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that people still don't know that has to happen in order for me to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And
Can you talk about that? Because I'm sure people are curious as to things that we don't know about that you're going through on a daily.
right, so kind of touching on this topic, I think that for me, my mindset is I move forward no matter what. I can't control what happened to me, but I can control how I respond to my circumstances. So
Absolutely.
whether or not I ever walk again isn't going to determine my effort in life. I'm always going to be moving forward with this attitude of gratitude. Man, gratitude changed my life. I started focusing on the things that I am grateful for and the things that I still had, and it's rewired my brain to literally my brain automatically just focuses on the positive things all the time.
Yeah.
Even in a negative situation, my mind's like, okay, this is uncomfortable, this is hard. You didn't want this answer, but what can you learn from this? What can this moment teach you? It's the way my brain works now. And I tell everyone, like, practice gratitude every day. Wake up, think about 3 things you're grateful for. Over time, it's going to rewire your brain, and your mind isn't going to automatically go to the negative, to the things you wish you had, to the sufferings. I've learned to embrace suffering because I know that hard times make you stronger. Suffering produces perseverance. So it's crazy all the things I've learned because of what I've been through.
Yeah.
And
Well, I love the mindset because we're never going to get through life's traumas. Like there's something that's always going to be coming down the pike. So if you decide that you're going to duck it and avoid it somehow, number one, it's not going to happen. But number two, there's another one further down. So every time you get through something, it's making you stronger, more resilient, healthier.
uh,
You're able to handle the other stuff. Like if everyone think about this, you've gotten through every single hard day of your life because you're here. Like every single one, you've gotten through obviously one of the hardest days anyone would ever have, and you're here. But I love the attitude of gratitude. That's why the way I live my life too. And I had a very interesting conversation with a buddy of mine about a year ago, and my mom was dying, and I was just kind of recounting the events of things that were going on. We were unfortunately estranged at the time of her death, and he's like, Moggs, you gotta look at yourself as either a warrior or a victim, and your mind cannot reconcile if you're going between. He's like, you're a warrior. So as a result, and you're the same, you're a warrior. You go through and you conquer things. You don't have to be a first responder or a military vet to be a warrior, but you have to thank the universe for everything it puts you through, man, good and bad. And
yeah,
in the shitty times, try to find that lesson because there's always a lesson to be learned, especially during the down times or the bad times. The question is, are you going to pay attention and learn that lesson? And
yeah,
guys like you are doing that. I hope I'm doing the same thing. And guys and girls who are going through it right now, watching this podcast, are you learning these lessons as you're getting put through life, man? Sometimes it's visceral pain that we suffer, but are you
yeah,
learning and getting and growing and getting better?
yeah, yeah. You can be a victim or you can be a survivor. And for me, surviving has gone or has helped me accomplish things in my life I never thought possible. And now that I realize that sky's the limit. Like
Yeah.
I've gotten this far, why can't I go this much farther? So now I'm always just trying to move forward because I overcame the hardest part already, which was my
Yeah.
injury. And now it's all uphill from now. It's a constant level of just pushing myself and elevating myself. Um, so I have I heard this this quote a while ago from a teacher in high school actually, and I've never forgotten it, and I want to share it because it's been my life motto these past 15 years. And they actually use it in the military. It's improvise, adapt, and overcome. I heard those three words, and I don't know why my teacher was referencing it. I was not paying attention. I don't know like why he brought that up, but I remember hearing these words, improvise, adapt, overcome. And they burned into my brain. And that was probably my sophomore year of high school, post injury. And I latch onto those words for some reason, and I live by them every day. Improvise,
Yeah.
adapt, overcome. And
Yeah.
so it's just been an amazing life journey these past 15 years. This past May 31st was my 15-year anniversary. The weekend of my 15-year anniversary, my wife gave birth to our first daughter together.
Nice.
Not only
Congratulations.
not only that, I was in the same hospital for the birth of my daughter when the hospital I went to when I had my broken neck.
That's amazing.
So it's life
And
has
the
come
same
full
nurses there,
circle. So it's
perchance?
interesting. I was on floor 7 for like the baby ward, and then I
Yep.
went down below to the spinal cord injury unit, and I spoke with nurses there, sharing my story about I was in this room 15 years ago as a 15-year-old with a broken neck, and now I'm here 15 years later. My wife is above us right now, and we just had our daughter together. So
That's
talk about
amazing.
life coming full circle, man. And
Hell yeah.
I feel like when you give your pain purpose, it doesn't hurt as much anymore. When I
Yeah.
use my situation, I use my injury to give my life purpose and meaning. And when you give your pain purpose, it drives you to keep going.
Yeah. I agree.
And
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've done the same thing with my PTSD or, whatever traumas you want to call it. And just going forth helping others. Do you go back to the spinal cord injury wing and speak to, current patients that are there?
that's something I try to do. I don't do it as often. COVID made it really difficult to do that because of just all the quarantining and stuff.
Yeah.
But I try to go back to my where I did rehab. It was a rehab specifically for brain injury and spinal cord injury situations. So I'm a part of a foundation called the Triumph Foundation where they actually go and talk to newly injured individuals, and they give them like a backpack full of resources and just offer them hope. Because I remember, laying in a hospital bed feeling very hopeless and
Yeah.
struggle just envisioning any type of future. And the truth is, yeah, spinal cord injuries are very severe and life changing, but they're not life ending.
Exactly.
Life goes on, and you can still live a very happy and successful life with a spinal cord injury. I know so many guys and girls out there with injuries like mine um, that live thriving lives. It really, you got to push through those hard moments and just really think about, who do you want to be and how do you want to live? You
Yeah.
know, you-
Super important message.
mhm.
The way you're
Yeah,
doing it. And I've through social media now. I mean, social media is horrible for some things, but other things it's fantastic. And I've seen many people with spinal cord injuries who have done incredible things with their lives. There's a girl, I'm forgetting her name right now. I actually reached out to her a while ago to be on my podcast. She's a paraplegic, and she was doing, I don't know if it's the Spartan Games, something similar to that. And she's banging out pull-ups while in her wheelchair, and it blew me away. Like there's nothing that was stopping her, and just competing in these games. And you could choose to live your life, and able-bodied people as well. You could choose your life to live your life like that, or you could sit there and feel sorry for yourself and sit in that chair and watch TV all day eating bonbons. and you're going to be no good to anybody, including yourself, especially yourself. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
way you've become, you're living that life of resilience, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It's been amazing. It's come full circle because I remember laying in the hospital in rehab actually, and my parents wanted me to like talk to a therapist back then. And in my mind, at 15 years old, like I wasn't ready to talk to someone, but my mindset was also of I don't want to talk to someone that doesn't understand what I'm going through. So if this therapist is an able-bodied therapist, I don't want to talk to them. And I remember being in that position and being like, I couldn't find any therapist that had a spinal cord injury. And now I'm in a very unique position
Yeah.
where I have a spinal cord injury and I've gone through the training to be a therapist. So I can reach that population. And that's always been a passion of mine is to work with individuals that are newly injured or have been injured for a while that are still struggling because they know that I understand a lot of the struggle. And at my job, I run specifically, I run a therapy group for individuals with spinal cord injuries. And it just, I love it. It's extremely fulfilling being able to do a job like this, and I get to give back to the community in a way that I
Oh,
think is very unique. And there's not a lot of people out there that have that are licensed therapists with spinal cord injuries.
yeah. I mean, the way I look at things now, my perspective is the universe puts you through everything to put you in the position you're in now to do what you're doing. Like you
Mm.
said, there's no one else that's in that position who's counseling people who've gone through what you've gone through. And I was talking to Taylor the other day. He said you guys filmed something over the weekend, and he's explaining it to me. He's like, Mike, it was unbelievable. It was incredible. He's like, I'm getting
Mhm.
goosebumps thinking about it right now. He's like, it was so inspirational for me. And, I just want to let you know, like, pat yourself on the shoulder every now and then because you telling your
Mhm.
story and, seeing people, letting people see the way you live your life is inspiring. It's life changing to people. I mean, it's such a powerful thing to be able to affect a change in someone's life, which you do.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
and I think too, like we were talking about this beforehand, is especially being men in this culture, we're taught that talking about our feelings is a sign of weakness, and we can't be emotional, and that's just completely not true. So I feel like if you happen to be watching this and you've been wanting to go to talk to a therapist or talk to someone, take this as this is a sign to make that phone call because it takes more vulnerability and courage to open up about what you're struggling with and talking about your emotions than it does just to think you're tough by bottling it up.
yeah.
Um, and
As I told you before we started recording,
mhm,
that's the biggest takeaway I've had in my journey of healing is becoming vulnerable, being able to become vulnerable because I was fucking shut down emotionally as a man. I grew up with a very stern, verbally abusive father, frankly, and I just learned to kind of callous up, not to feel that pain, and then didn't express anything. And anytime I tried to express something, it felt like weakness. So I didn't express anything, man. It's like a
yeah,
caveman. And now I'm able to express everything, and including cry. I've cried several times on, podcasts. I'm proud of being able to do that.
yeah,
That does take strength. It takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to acknowledge that you need other people to help you out of, a low place in your life. And
mm,
it's not weakness. Raising your hand and asking for help, man. It's actually strength. I find it so sad that veterans and first responders would kill themselves before raising their hand to ask for help.
yeah,
Like that is weakness, guys. Raising your hand and asking for help is not. That's a sign of strength.
yeah, yeah. It's so funny, just talking about hope, the importance of hope. I remember a few years after my injury, I was in a Panda Express eating my orange chicken in chow mein, and I opened up my fortune cookie, and now something I wouldn't really normally do, but I was craving something sweet, and my fortune said, "He who has hope has everything," and I taped that next to my bed for years to read that every morning. He who has hope has everything, because as long as you have hope, that's what you need to keep going forward. Like you said, when
Yeah.
you lose hope, you give up. So
Anything's
I think
possible when you have hope.
anything is possible when you have hope. It's hope. Hope is powerful. Hope and purpose,
Yeah.
man. So
Absolutely.
it's been quite a journey. Um, these past 15 years, but I love who I am. I love the person I've become. I love all that I've accomplished. People have asked me like, if you could go back to that day, would you change what happened? And my honest answer is, if I can go back to if I can go back to that day and change what happened, and I would lose everything I've accomplished and gained and learned, I would not do it. It wouldn't be worth it.
Wow,
Um,
that's powerful right there.
yeah, yeah.
Extremely powerful.
So
All right, brother. It has been fantastic speaking to you. What I always say is I hope to change one person's life when I interview my guests, and I will guarantee that someone's life will be changed as they watch this. And if they want to reach out, speak to you, please tell them how to do so. All the links will be in the bio, but please tell them how to reach you, and any organization that you would like to talk about as well.
absolutely. So yeah, like Michael said, I'm gonna send him a bunch of my links to put in the description below. If you want to give me a follow on my Instagram, Collie7. I have a YouTube channel called Quad Life with Zach, where I've posted videos of just life living with a spinal cord injury. If you want to check those out, I usually share those with people who are newly injured or people that are just interested in what life is like with a spinal cord injury. Just kind of like a fun educational videos of my life after injury. Um, if you're in California and you want to talk to a therapist, I am accepting new clients right now. Um, because of how the laws work with therapy, you have to be in California. I can only see people in the state I live. So if you happen to be in California, you can reach out to me and we can talk. I really would love to have some conversations, some life changing conversations, and help you figure out what it is that you need and live the life that you want to live. So inspiredresolutionscounseling.com is our website. If you go on Psychology Today, I have my own Psychology Today profile, Zachary Collie. You can find my information and reach out to me. So I'd love to talk with any of you in California, and I hope that you guys found my story inspiring.
Beautiful, brother. I found it incredibly inspiring myself. As you know, that's why I had you on. And love speaking with you. It's a great message. I love the way you live in life. I wish you the best in the future. And, obviously anything I could do, please reach out. And anyone that I think that will benefit from speaking to you, I'm going to send them your way. Just love the talk. Love what you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you like what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you all soon.